already said he's not going to debate until he even knows what evidence they're going to bring to trial.
Right. In the meantime, he'll just make a bunch of innuendos. Yeah, in the meantime, he'll just make innuendos that TPUSA and Erica Kirk were involved in a cover-up of her husband's. By the way, the most horrific thing, bro. You want to go through his. Let's go through all of his public acts where he's basically through innuendo trying to insinuate that USA's involved, and Candace Owens has specifically claimed that they are.
Okay, that's fine, but you said he accused them, and then he said, well, he basically he had not accused them of anything.
Okay, let's just
has said they could be brought into a leasing station and interrogated.
No, I'll show you. I'm going to tell you exactly what she has said, because this is why I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you exactly why it is that she doesn't want to actually do a debate on this, where she has to defend any of her positions.
Dude, that is fucking absurd.
Well, how's it absurd? She's never done a single debate on it. Never.
Listen to yourself.
Never done a single one.
A debate on the.
On her claims.
I know this is the first time I've ever heard of anybody debating over investigation.
Funny. So this first time you've ever seen any, even though there's tons of debates over Carmelo Anthony, which was an investigation. What are you talking about? It's not the first time.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
And before that, we had George Zim. We endlessly debated that. We've debated tons of these investigations.
Okay, you're right about that.
Okay, so let's go through. We can go through some of her tweets here and some of her claims, and this is why I believe that the claims, why she won't debate. She said the police didn't even question Lance Twiggs. That's not true. They did.
Wait a minute. How do you know they questioned him?
Because we literally have video of him being questioned.
Him being questioned?
Yeah.
Who?
In the preliminary, they showed a video of him being questioned.
Police interrogation, dude. What are you talking about?
What was it then?
That was freaking patty cakes.
Oh, probably.
Interrogation.
Princess.
First of all, and they also said that they interrogated him before that as well. Also, yeah, she also.
And I'll ask you again. Give me what kind of evidence they're even telling the truth.
Bro, video evidence is good enough for you, I guess.
No, it's not.
She also called Erica Kirk a psychopath. There's that. Great. Psychopathy is not even a diagnostic in the DSM. It doesn't even exist. It's made up nonsense.
You know what we mean by it, so don't play stupid.
You know what we mean. What do you mean?
What does that mean when you call somebody a psychopath?
What does it mean?
Come on.
What?
What?
A sociopath, a psychopath. You know what it means. Don't play stupid.
Listen, when you're talking about specific claims like this, when you say psychopathy, you're saying that Erica Kirk is like an unfeeling monster?
Yeah, I agree.
That's what you think?
That's what
Based on what? Do you know this woman?
Behavior, dude.
So all the people who are around her claim that the opposite is true, or her close friends, family, confidants, people work with her every day, but the people who don't are claiming that of course she is, right?
The people that are being paid by her, yeah, I'm sure they're gonna say whatever. I mean, come on.
Got it. She told Sean Ryan that a shape charged Charlie Kirk that there was PET in his microphone. The medical examiner claimed that there was a wound, and that's just no explosive mic.
Wait a minute, repeat that? The medical examiner said what?
Claimed that he died of.
Where did you see that at?
That was done in the preliminary hearing. The detective was asked what was in the actual medical examination. They weren't able to show it on screen, and he confirmed that inside
the medical examiner testified?
No, that's not what I said. Listen to what I'm saying. They had the medical examiner's report submitted in the preliminary. When they did, they asked the detective what was in it. He said death by wound.
See, I remember the most famous autopsy report in freaking history.
Are you going to bring up JFK?
Thank you, dude. Stop.
Are you going to bring up JFK's the most famous autopsy, the magic bullet?
Yeah.
So do you understand that these are two completely separate situations that have bearing on each other, and that's a complete red herring?
I thought they were the
So then they're not the same. Why are you bringing it up like they are?
Because they lie. They just gotta put some muscle on them, dude.
Nobody disputes that people can lie. That's not what we're talking about, though, is it? We're not talking about whether or not people can lie. We're talking about whether or not there's a good standard of evidence that we can go off of. Your red herring means
Actually,
nothing.
I didn't get a chance to watch all of it. I haven't heard anything about the medical examiner testimony. I don't know.
I didn't say the medical examiner testified.
Well, then what are you talking about?
Listen, I'm going to tell you for a third time, bro. You got to listen to what I'm saying to you. They submitted into evidence the medical examiner's report. Under questioning, the detective said, when they were asked what's in the report, he said what's in the report is that Charlie Kirk was shot. That's what's in the report. Now, why would the defense, if that wasn't the case, go up and be like, that's not what's in the report? What are you talking about? Because they could. They didn't. Because that's what's in the report.
Wait a minute. The defense isn't going to challenge everything at a preliminary here.
They would challenge that at a preliminary.
Maybe
If
not.
the medical
We don't
examiner
know
gave
that.
a report that he was, do you think the defense would be like, okay, this is an actual show cause hearing. I can go over right now and show they have no cause because he wasn't actually
No, maybe they're not. Maybe they're saving the big for later. I don't know.
at a show cause hearing.
Correct. Yes. We
But
don't
that
know.
would eliminate cause.
If they already eliminated cause when they said that freaking the rifle couldn't be matched to the fragments. It was already eliminated. Wasn't it?
In almost every investigation in the history of mankind, you cannot match the bullets to the rifle or to the.
Kidding me.
No.
You,
Very small percentage that you can actually even match the round to the. That's not what they do.
what?
Investigation. Very small percentage they can even do that with because the bullet has to be intact. In this particular case, it was fractured because it's a soft tip. So what happens is soft tip hit him. It goes in. It hits bone inside the vertebrae. Probably sent fragments all throughout his chest, and it left some fragments inside of the neck, which they pulled out.
Are you sure they pulled it out of the neck?
Yeah.
Did you see the chain of custody?
What do you mean? What chain of custody?
It showed that they pulled it out of his neck at autopsy.
No, we haven't seen the medical examiner's report, but the medical examiner himself pulled these out. Yeah.
Exactly.
The medical examiner
So
himself pulled
actually,
them out.
it is kind of pointless to be debating this right now because we don't
It's
know.
not pointless to debate it. The evidence.
If the
Yeah.
medical examiner didn't say that they took it out of his body, it is pointless.
Bro, yes, they did say that they took it out of his body, yes. They were recovered from Charlie Kirk wound. Yes, they gave it to the police. What do you mean?
They handed it to the police.
Yes. That's correct.
So you're right. 100% sure that they got fragments out of his body
Yeah.
and handed it to the police.
Yeah.
100% sure.
Yes. 100% sure.
Just quickly, Joey, you know how before you were going through that initial dispatch call, and you showed me the initial dispatch call where you said the shoulder length hair.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, you fell for another AI video, dude.
Oh, Jesus Christ, don't do that. We
No,
already,
you seriously did. Like, this is why I said to you it's important to look at the original sources, because initially you came on and you said that the photo of Kyla Robinson from the stairwell was a real photo that was given by the FBI. That was AI altered, and the video that we played before was also AI altered. And I found the original one, and it doesn't say anything about shoulder length hair.
so you're telling me there's no police calls that aren't AI from that day?
Do you want me to show you the police call? We can play it right now.
Wait a minute. So are there any that are AI, that aren't AI?
That aren't AI, yes, I can show you the one. I can show you the one that's posted by The Guardian.
I'm not asking you that. I'm asking you, are there any that are not AI?
The one
That's
that I
a what?
can show you.
Any police calls in general? From that day?
Yes, of course.
Okay,
Yeah.
I know. But I've got to go, guys. I
Have a
appreciate
good
you guys.
day.
You don't want to look at the video?
Well,
No,
he's
I
gotta
gotta
go. He's been
go.
on for a while. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
Yeah. This is the video if you want to see it.
To you, by the captain reported one individual that was shot unknown where the shooter went.
Bunch of leftist revolver.
CVU in Orem has had that
fake AI videos, man.
Charlie Kirk, and then we're getting several calls. We're trying to get more information. Heard near the library at UVU. They're trying to lock the library down now. So gathering.
Dummies.
The building is just east of the library. He's wearing jeans, black shirt, black mask, long rifle.
So that part there, someone made this AI video and edited it to say,
Captain Bill, dressed in all black, blue length hair, aviator glasses, black badge, and a long.
shoulder length hair. So, anyway.
Well, I didn't catch the last part. What happened?
Well, he came on and he said that there was the dispatch call saying that the guy had shoulder length hair, and then it was just another. Because initially, his initial criticism, which is where I found him on Twitter, was that I believe this. He said this to me. Yeah, Jake thinks that these two images are the same. And hold on a second. Where is it?
Anyway, following standard forensic procedure, medical examiner immediately secured recovered fragments from the wound cavity and into a strict chain of custody and handed them over to law enforcement. Once extracted during the autopsy, the fragments were transferred directly to police investigators so they could be legally logged as evidence. They were subsequently sent to the Federal Forensic Lab, specifically the Federal Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, for specialized ballistic and tool mark testing. There's no chain of custody, though, Jake. It just went right from pulling them out of the wound to categorizing them as evidence and then handing them over to law enforcement, and then they sent them over for forensic testing to the ATF.
Well, it comes from the FBI, bro, so you can't believe that.
You know, it's funny because I think that I don't want people to lose their curiosity when it comes to questioning narratives or questioning federal narratives especially. I think that that's fine, and it's even healthy. It's just that you can't dismiss the huge amounts of evidence here, and they're just dismissed out of turn using a fallacious form of reasoning, which is the source. The source itself can't be trusted, so therefore this is untrustworthy. But it's like, what about the other things the sources do? If we asked him about racial demographics for crime, do you think that he would go to FBI statistics?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. But then suddenly we trust the source again.
Yeah.
Like eventually these people are going to have to come up with some kind of standard that they're going to use for evidence, and this is the problem, right? Is that they know so much that isn't so, and the second that you start to fill in those blanks for them, they lose their. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it does show like that. And there's good reason to have distrust in institutions, for sure. I mean, there's been a lot of letdown for the institutions, and there have been conspiracies that have, come true, and there are major conspiracies out there that people think is still unanswered. So, that's fair enough to believe that there are conspiracies. But I mean, eventually you just have to sort of say, how are you going to be Jimmy Dore right now? Have you seen what Jimmy Dore's posting? Jimmy Dore is just doubling down, tripling down, or Ian Carroll and these sorts of guys.
Yeah, but none of them will actually take your views. Like this guy says, Andrew works for TPUSA. I would have liked him too. I don't work for TPUSA. Just making it up.
Yeah.
Just making it up. That's just as crazy. Like when you, and again, another genetic fallacy. Suddenly Andrew has changed. What? I've had this exact same position since we started. In fact, early on, me and Jake were debating about this. He thought that there might be some good legs on the other side. I disagreed with him. And we were debating about it when this stuff first started happening.
Yeah, this is
like Charlie Kirk's death.
8 months ago or so.
Yeah,
You and I had it back and forth.
Never changed any of my opinions on this.
Yeah.
You said Andrew also defended the files. That also never happened. You're just lying your off. I said that you have to separate mythology from fact. Anytime I separate mythology from fact, you guys lose your mind because you're devoted to mythology. You like the myths. They're fun. Myths are fun. They're really fun. And you don't like it when I come in and shit on your little parade. You don't like that. Andrew's, that's mean, Andrew. How dare you beat the holy shit out of me with facts and reason and logic. That's bullshit. I was married to this narrative.
Facts. Facts. Can't mess with Andrew Wilson, period.
Whatever it's called, wherever it's played.
99% of any payment, and you can watch that.
July 30th, 1975, 2:45 in the afternoon. The parking lot of the Mecca's Red Fox restaurant in Bloomfield Township, Michigan. Jimmy Hoffa is pacing. He's wearing a blue short-sleeve shirt, black slacks, white socks. He's furious. He's been waiting 45 minutes for a meeting that's never going to happen. At the Diamond Hardware store next door. He says nobody showed up. He says he'll be home by 4 o'clock for dinner. He hangs up. He walks back to the parking lot. A car pulls up. Alpha gets in willingly. He recognizes the men inside. He trusts at least one of them. That car drives away from the Macca's Red Fox at approximately 2:45 p.m. Jimmy Hoffa is never seen alive again. His body has never been found. His teeth have never been found. His wedding ring has never been found. The most famous Union leader in American history simply disappeared into the summer afternoon. And somewhere, in a quiet brick house at 304 East Doran Street in Kingston, Pennsylvania, a small old man with rimless glasses and a hearing aid was waiting to be told it was done. This wasn't a Gotti. This wasn't a Capone. This man never owned a flashy car. He didn't wear silk suits. He didn't shout. He didn't threaten. He didn't even raise his voice. He sold drapes, curtains, bedspreads, out of a store in a dying coal town nobody had ever heard of. Russell Bufalino, in October 1903, ran one of the most powerful and least understood crime families in the United States for nearly 35 years. The FBI knew exactly who he was. They just couldn't touch him. This is the story of the mafia boss who organized the most catastrophic mob summit in American history, who allegedly arranged the killing of the most famous labor leader of the 20th century, who allegedly worked with the CIA to murder a foreign head of state, and who allegedly did all of it while sitting in a wheelchair in a nursing home, sipping anisette, waiting for visitors who never failed to show. Here's what the history books don't tell you. Russell Bufalino didn't just run northeastern Pennsylvania. He sat on the Mafia Commission as a kingmaker. He decided who lived and who died in cities he had never visited, and the most powerful bosses in New York. Carlo Gambino, Vito Genovese, Tommy Lucchese. They came to him, they called him on the phone. They asked his opinion, because Russell understood something the loud ones never figured out. Power isn't noise. Power is silence. Let's go back, way back, to a port in Sicily in the summer of 1905. A 2-year-old boy named Rosario is carried onto a steamer bound for America. His family settles eventually in Buffalo, New York, where a Sicilian neighborhood is forming around first-world labor jobs and immigrant grocery stores. By the time Rosario is 14, he's already running with older kids on the streets. He's small, he's quiet, he listens more than he talks. He has a slight droopy left eye that gives him a permanent look of skepticism. The other kids underestimate him. That's a mistake every man who ever underestimated Mr. Bufalino would eventually make. He cuts his teeth in Buffalo under the legendary boss Stefano Magaddino, one of the original founders of the American Mafia and a member of the original commission. Magaddino sees something in the kid. He sees a young man who can keep his mouth shut, who can carry a message across state lines without ever writing anything down, who can sit in a room full of dangerous men and notice every detail. By the late 1920s, Russell has been sent south to Pennsylvania coal country, to a Sicilian enclave that needs organizing. You have to understand what Pennsylvania was at this time. The anthracite coal industry was dying. 30,000 miners were being laid off. The garment industry was moving in to use the cheap labor pool. Every dress factory in Pittston, Wilkes-Barre, and Scranton needed two things: workers who wouldn't strike, and trucks to ship the finished product to New York. Bufalino realized something nobody else in the underworld had figured out. If you controlled the union locals and the trucks, you controlled the entire industry. You didn't need to rob the factories. You owned the factories. By the early 1940s, Russell Bufalino is working as a mechanic at the Canada Dry Ginger Ale Bottling Company in Pittston. The company is owned by Joseph Barbara, a Sicilian wholesaler with deep underworld connections. This is the cover. The real business runs through the back rooms. Bufalino owns at least 7 dress factories in West Pittston. By 1950, he controls the Cutters Union, he controls the Truckers Union. Anyone who wants a garment contract in New York City has to go through him. Anyone, no exceptions. The FBI later went in a 1953 internal memo that Bufalino is one of the 2 most powerful men in the mafia of the Pittston area and the political and underworld leader of the region. But Pennsylvania was just the laboratory. The real ambition was always international. By the mid-1950s, Russell Bufalino is flying to Havana. He's part owner of a casino. He's part owner of a racetrack. He's friendly with Meyer Lansky. He's friendly with Santo Trafficante. He's building a parallel economy outside the reach of American law. An FBI dossier from July 20th, 1956 documents one of these trips. Bufalino flies to Cuba with several business associates. One of them is from Medico Electric Company, a Pittston firm that received $800,000 in war contracts in 1951. The Pennsylvania Organized Crime Commission later identified Bufalino as a silent partner in Medico Industries, the largest supplier of small arms ammunition to the United States government. Read that again. The man the FBI considered one of the most dangerous mobsters in the country was, on paper, helping arm the American military. Then came October 1957, the month that changed everything. Albert Anastasia, the bloodthirsty boss of what would later become the Gambino family, was sitting in a barber chair at the Park Sheraton Hotel in Manhattan. October 25th, 1957. 10:15 in the morning. A hot towel was draped over his face. 2 gunmen walked in. They opened fire. Anastasia leapt from the chair, swinging at his own reflection in the mirror, thinking it was the assassin. He died on the marble floor of the barbershop. The hit had been ordered by Vito Genovese with the consent of Carlo Gambino, who was about to take Anastasia's family for himself. But the killing created chaos. Every family in the country needed to know who was in charge now. Who was getting what? Who had to swallow what? There needed to be a meeting. A national meeting. The biggest gathering of mafia leadership in American history. Stefano Magaddino, Russell's mentor, was tasked with picking the location. He chose Joseph Barbara's 200-acre estate in Appalachian, New York, a tiny rural town in the southern tier near the Pennsylvania border. And Magaddino chose Russell Bufalino to handle every single arrangement. The hotels, the food, the travel, the bodyguards, the agenda. Russell was 54 years old. He was about to become the most important logistics man in mob history. He was about to organize the meeting that would destroy the very thing it was meant to protect. Here's how the scheme worked. Russell understood that you could not have 100 mafiosi arriving at Appalachian all at once. So he stayed with them. He booked rooms at the Casey Hotel in Scranton, Pennsylvania the night before. He brought 5 men with him personally. Limousines were arranged to ferry attendees from Binghamton, from Endicott, from Elmira. A local butcher in Appalachian received an order for 207 pounds of meat. Barbara's son reserved every available room at the Parkway Motel in Vestal. The plan was elegant. Arrive Wednesday evening, meet Thursday morning, settle the Anastasia dispute, decide on the future of narcotics trafficking, which Genovese wanted to push hard, and which others wanted to ban. Vote on new family bosses. Disperse by Thursday night, 96 hours total. Nobody would ever know it happened. What Russell didn't account for was a New York State trooper named Edgar D. Croswell. Croswell was a 38-year-old sergeant who had been watching Joseph Barbara's house for months. He'd noticed mob figure Carmine Galante. He'd noticed the meat order. He'd noticed Barbara's son hoarding hotel rooms. On the morning of November 14th, 1957, Croswell and 1 trooper and 2 federal alcohol agents drove past the Barbara estate at 12:40 in the afternoon and saw the impossible. Cadillacs, Lincolns, roadblock at the bottom of the hill. When the men inside Barbara's barn saw the troopers, they panicked. Some ran into the woods in $500 suits and Italian leather shoes. Vito Genovese was caught at the roadblock in his car. Joseph Bonanno escaped through the trees, allegedly. Carlo Gambino was detained. Joseph Profaci, Paul Castellano, Santo Trafficante, Nicholas Savella. The complete leadership of American organized crime in handcuffs at the side of a country road in upstate New York. Over 60 men were apprehended, up to 50 escaped. Russell Bufalino was among those arrested. He gave his occupation as a salesman in the dress industry. The aftermath was a catastrophe for the Mafia. For 2 decades, FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover had publicly insisted the Mafia did not exist. He called organized crime a myth invented by Italian Americans to deflect attention from their own communities. After Appalachian, he could not say that anymore. Photographs of men in expensive suits being escorted in handcuffs filled every newspaper in the country. Within months, Hoover created the Top Hoodlum program, the first federal effort to systematically target mob bosses. 20 of the men arrested at Appalachian were charged with conspiring to obstruct justice. They were found guilty in January 1959. All convictions were overturned on appeal the following year, but the damage was done. The membership books for new initiates into the Mafia were closed nationwide as a security measure. They would not reopen until 1976. 19 years of frozen recruitment. All because of one trooper in upstate New York and one logistics failure by Russell Bufalino. You'd think this would have ended him. It didn't. It made him. Within 2 years of Appalachian, Russell had been promoted from underboss to full boss of the northeastern Pennsylvania family. Joseph Barbara died of a heart attack in 1959. Russell stepped into the chair without a single objection. The other commission members respected him because he had taken the heat. He had walked into the FBI office. He had been photographed. He had been disgraced. And he had said nothing. Not one name. Not one fact. Not one word. He went home to 304 East Dorrance Street in Kingston, Pennsylvania. A squat brick house worth maybe $20,000. He kept his name out of the papers. He ran his empire from a single business at 161 South Main Street in Pittston, and drape and curtains. From the outside, it looked like a place that sold drones. Inside the back room, decisions were being made about union elections in Cleveland, garment contracts in Manhattan, narcotic shipments through Buffalo, gambling proceeds from Atlantic City. Russell ate prosciutto bread for lunch. He drank red wine. He never wrote anything down. He used payphones. He spoke in dialect. He met couriers in restaurants and parking lots. The FBI tapped his lines for years and got almost nothing usable. This is the part that nobody understands about Russell Bufalino. His power didn't come from soldiers. The Bufalino family only ever had about 30 made men. Compare that to the Gambinos with 300. Compare that to the Genovese with 400. Russell ran a tiny family by Mafia standards. But he had relationships. He had information. He had connections that crossed every line in the underworld. The biggest bosses in New York would call him to mediate disputes. Why? Because he was outside their orbit. He had no skin in the game. He could be trusted to give a clean opinion. He became the commission's quiet advisor, the man you called when you didn't know what to do. And then came the CIA. In 1960, after Fidel Castro had nationalized the Havana casinos and thrown out the mob, the agency went looking for men who hated Castro and knew how to kill. They found Santo Trafficante, who had lost millions in Cuba. They found Sam Giancana of Chicago. And according to a 1975 Time magazine report and subsequent church committee disclosures, they found Russell Bufalino, who had also been wiped out by the revolution. The plot to assassinate Castro before the Bay of Pigs invasion in April 1961 involved poison pills, exploding cigars, and an estimated $150,000 in agency money channeled through underworld figures. The plot failed. Castro lived. But for the rest of his life, Russell Bufalino held a strange kind of leverage. He knew exactly what the CIA had done. He knew names, he knew dates, he knew payments. He was, in a literal sense, untouchable. Now we come to the Irishman. 1955. In New York, a truck driver named Frank Sheeran has broken down on the side of the road. He's a 6'4" Korean War veteran with a violent temper and a growing reputation as a man who can solve problems with his hands. An older Italian man pulls over to help him fix the engine. He lends Sheeran some tools. They talk. The Italian is calm, patient, almost paternal. Sheeran has no idea who he is. 2 years later, when Appalachian happens, Sheeran sees the same face on the front page of every newspaper in the country. The kindly old Italian who fixed his truck was Russell Bufalino. From that moment forward, according to Sheeran's later confession to author Charles Brandt, Russell took an interest in him. Russell put him to work. Russell taught him the business. And eventually, Russell introduced him to Jimmy Hoffa. Hoffa needed a friend in the Pennsylvania family. Russell needed someone close to Hoffa. Sheeran was perfect, loyal, Irish, so he was invisible to law enforcement looking for Italian associates. Brutal when he needed to be. By the late 1960s, Frank Sheeran was simultaneously the head of Teamsters Local 326 in Wilmington, Delaware, a close personal friend of Jimmy Hoffa, and a contract killer for Russell Bufalino. He worked both sides. He kept both sides happy. Until 1975, when both sides became impossible to keep happy at the same time. Jimmy Hoffa had been released from federal prison in December 1971 after serving 4 years of a 13-year sentence for jury tampering and fraud. As part of his parole conditions, President Richard Nixon had personally signed a clause barring Hoffa from any union activity until 1980. Hoffa was furious. He believed the mob, specifically Russell Bufalino and his allies, had pushed for that clause to keep him out and keep his successor Frank Fitzsimmons in power. Fitzsimmons was easier to control. Fitzsimmons let the mob borrow from the Teamsters Pension Fund without question. Hoffa, by 1975, was threatening to come back. He was threatening to expose the pension fund loans. He was making phone calls. He was naming names in public. He had become, in the language of the underworld, a problem that had to be solved. The accounts vary on what exactly Russell did next. What's documented is this. On the morning of July 28th, 1975, 2 days before Hoffa's disappearance, Russell Bufalino and Frank Sheeran drove from Pennsylvania to Detroit, ostensibly to attend a wedding for the daughter of a Detroit mafia figure named Bill Bufalino. No direct relation. They stopped at gas stations. They paid in cash. They left no paper trail. Frank Sheeran would later claim, in deathbed-era confessions published in Charles Brandt's 2004 book I Heard You Paint Houses, that Russell told him during this trip what was going to happen. Sheeran claimed he was the shooter. He claimed Hoffa got into a car at the Macy's Red Fox with Sheeran, Hoffa's foster son, Chucky O'Brien, and another man. He claimed they drove to a house in Detroit. He claimed he put 2 bullets in the back of Hoffa's head in a kitchen. He claimed the body was taken to a cremation facility owned by associates and destroyed. The FBI investigated Sheeran's confession extensively after his death in 2003. Forensic testing of the alleged house at 1741 Beaverland Street in Detroit found blood evidence that DNA testing could not match to Hoffa. Many investigators do not believe Sheeran was the killer. Some believe he provided cover or transportation. Some believe his entire confession was self-aggrandizement. What no one disputes is this. Russell Bufalino had known Hoffa for years, had a clear motive, had been at the planning table, and was named as a suspect in the FBI's official Hoffix memo summary of the case. Jimmy Hoffa was declared legally dead in 1982. His body has never been recovered. The walls were starting to close in on Russell Bufalino. Not for Hoffa. For something smaller, stupider, personal. In 1976, a small-time jewelry thief and mob associate named Jack Napoli owed Russell $25,000 for stolen diamonds Russell had fronted him. Napoli wouldn't pay. Russell, then 73 years old, lost his temper for the first time anyone could remember. He met Napoli at a restaurant in New York City. He grabbed him by the throat. He said, and there were federal microphones in the room,
You motherfucker! You're gonna pay me my money or I'll kill you!
Napoli was a federal informant. The entire confrontation was on tape. Russell was convicted of extortion in 1977. He was sentenced to 4 years in federal prison. He served his time at the Federal Correctional Institution in Danbury, Connecticut, with men a third his age. He came out in 1981, a smaller, frailer, more bitter man. And then he made the mistake that finished him. From prison, according to federal prosecutors, Russell had ordered a hit on Jack Napoli for testifying against him. The conspiracy was uncovered. Russell was indicted in October 1980 for conspiracy to commit murder. He was tried in New York federal court in 1981. He was convicted. In November 1981, he was sentenced to 10 years at the United States Penitentiary in Leavenworth, Kansas. He was 78 years old. This is where the wheelchair enters the story. Russell's health collapsed in Leavenworth. He had heart problems. He had circulation problems. By 1987, he was confined to a wheelchair and transferred to the United States Medical Center for Federal Prisoners in Springfield, Missouri. And here is the strange truth that almost nobody believed at the time. From a federal prison medical facility, sitting in a wheelchair, an old Sicilian man with rimless glasses was still running the Bufalino crime family. Visitors came, decisions were made. Couriers carried instructions. The family operated through his designated acting boss, William Billy D'Elia, but every major decision went to Russell first. He was released on parole in May 1989. He returned to Kingston, Pennsylvania. He was placed under what the Pennsylvania Crime Commission described as constant surveillance. It made no difference. The Quiet Dawn gave them nothing to surveil. He spent his final years at a nursing home in Scranton. He was still being visited by Billy D'Elia. He was still receiving small tributes. He was still respected. He died of natural causes on February 25th, 1994. He was 90 years old. He was one of the very few major mafia bosses of the 20th century to die in bed of old age, with his family around him, never having spent his final years on trial, never having flipped, never having broken the code of omerta he had lived by since he was a teenager in Buffalo. The Bufalino crime family did not survive him in the same form. Billy D'Elia took over and was indicted in 2006 for money laundering and witness tampering. He flipped. He became a government witness. He told prosecutors what nobody had been able to prove for 60 years, that the Bufalino family had controlled the garment industry in Pennsylvania, that they had skimmed casino profits in Atlantic City, that Russell had ordered hits, that Russell had known about Hoffa, that Russell had been everything the FBI had always said he was. The family today exists in fragments. The garment industry is gone. The coal towns are hollow. The Pittston that Russell built is a memory. What's left is the legacy. Russell Bufalino proved that the most dangerous men in organized crime were not the loud ones, not the John Gottis who held press conferences.
Do you like my lips? My hands? My clothes?
An empty chair sits at the head of a closed restaurant table. Beside it, a clean hierarchy chart rises from associate to soldier, capo, consigliere, underboss, and boss. It looks almost corporate, with one box above another and one command line after another. But the first surprise is already at the bottom. An associate could work closely with a mafia family without being a formal member of it. That distinction changes the entire chart. The real question is not simply who ranked above whom. It is who belonged, who reported to who controlled a crew, who carried information upward, and who could keep power when the official structure began to bend. The familiar model was real. American Cosa Nostra families commonly used a recognizable hierarchy. At the top sat an administration built around the boss, underboss, and consigliere. Beneath them were crews led by capos, including soldiers and the associates connected to them. But the chart was never a complete picture of power. To understand how a family actually worked, every rank has to answer 3 questions. What was the role? What kind of power did it carry? And what could weaken or destroy that power? Start with the associate. The word sounds like the lowest official rank, but it was not an official rank at all. Associates were not initiated members. They could be involved with the organization, work around made members, and become valuable to a crew, but they remained outside the formal membership line. That did not make them unimportant. An associate could be connected to a soldier or capo and become part of the flow of money, information, relationships, and access that kept a crew functioning. The family could benefit from that person without formally bringing him inside. This created an unusual position. An associate could stand close to power while lacking the recognized status of a made member. He might be useful, trusted in limited ways, or linked to people inside the organization, but his relationship to the family depended on made members above him. That difference mattered because proximity was not the same as legitimacy. The associate's power came from usefulness and connection. His weakness came from the fact that those connections could disappear. He had no formal office in the hierarchy and did not become part of the administration. He did not automatically gain authority over anyone else just because he worked closely with the family. So the bottom of the chart was not a simple entry-level position. It was a border. On one side were people connected to the organization. On the other were people formally recognized as members. The next rank crossed that border. A soldier was a made member. That status placed him inside the formal family structure and inside a crew. But Hollywood often stretches that fact into something much larger. A soldier was not automatically a miniature boss. Made status did not give him unlimited command over other members. It did not place every associate beneath him or allow him to direct the entire family. A soldier normally remained part of a capo's crew, operating within a structure that still required reporting upward. His status mattered. It gave him recognized standing within the organization and tied him more directly to the family. It could connect him to the backing and dispute resolution that came from belonging to an established crew. But that recognition came with dependence. The soldier relied on the capo above him, rather than above the crew system. His position was formal, yet his reach could remain narrow. That is the first major break from the movie version. Being inside the family did not mean controlling the family, and being outside full membership did not mean being irrelevant to it. The associate and the soldier could both be close to the same activity, relationships, and crew. But one stood outside the formal line, while the other stood inside it. That was the first real source of order, not a title by itself, but the boundary between connection and membership. Yet even made status did not explain how street-level activity became family power. For that, the chart had to move upward to the person who turned a collection of members and associates into a working unit. The capo, or caporegaim, led a crew. This was where the hierarchy stopped looking like a list and began operating like a system. A capo supervised soldiers and associates connected to the crew. He reported upward. He could provide organizational backing and act as the link between the people beneath him and the administration above him. He also commonly received a share of the crew's earnings. The exact arrangements could vary. There was no single universal percentage or procedure that applied to every family, city, and period. But the broader exchange was clear. Money and information moved upward, while status, access, backing, and dispute resolution moved downward. The capo stood in the middle of that exchange. Picture several crew members spread across a city. They do not all speak directly to the boss or carry every problem into the administration. Their activity, information, and earnings converge first on the person leading the crew. That made the capo more than a supervisor. He was an information filter. He knew what his crew was doing, or at least what reached him. He decided what needed to move upward and represented the crew to senior leadership. Senior leadership depended on capos to understand what was happening below. This dependence gave the capo practice title above him could carry greater formal authority, but the capo controlled the point where people, money, relationships, and information met. If the administration wanted the family to function, it needed the crews. And if it needed the crews, it needed the capos who managed them. That is the second reveal. The operational hinge of the family was often not the man sitting at the very top. It was the person connecting the top to the crews that produced the organization's reach. But even this did not make every capo all-powerful. Crews could remain compartmentalized. A soldier, associate, or capo of one crew might have little connection to the activity